The second and probably only other topic we're going to talk about today is Denver's continuing journey in the world of non professional basketball. The amateurs, as it were. Future professionals, maybe. Most of them, some of them. Denver, my guy, how has
Yeah.
your start to the week been? I know it's only been 3 days since we last talked about your NCAA journey on podcast, but a lot's happened in the last 3 days for you.
Yeah, so let's just start off with the game that's on the screen.
Oh, we'll throw it up.
It
I
will.
don't have it on the screen yet. One moment.
Oh, okay.
And there you go.
Awesome. So we'll start off Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma. That was a fun game to watch. Um, I really enjoyed Cade Cunningham. He is going to be very talented. I can see why he's projected to be the overall pick, the number one overall pick in this year's draft. He he didn't like score at all until
Probably 8 minutes to go in
like
the game.
yeah, really like 7 8 minutes. I was trying to think, and then he dropped like what, like 15 points, something
Well, that's
like
what I'm
that.
saying. His biggest, I think, what may need to change a little bit at the next level, but his biggest strength right now in the college game is he is just an expert at kind of feeling the game out and picking when it's time to go. And then when he turns it on, he's the best player on the court by just a long, long, long ways, right? So yeah, he only had 2 points and didn't that 2 points came from free throws. So he hadn't made a shot from the field until I'm gonna say it's around the 8 minute mark. I feel like it might have been a little earlier, but it was fairly late into the game for him to only have a couple of points. And then I turned around and he went from like 2 to 9 in like a minute. And then he finished the game, yeah, with somewhere in the 15 to 20 point range. He really turned it on, and we were talking a little bit during the game, and the one thing I didn't tell you in our back and forth was the fact that it was a close game throughout the first half and the first part of the second half, and Oklahoma did not have a substantial lead with Cade Cunningham not taking the scoring load was very concerning. So I'm not at all surprised Oklahoma lost.
One thing I really like about Cade Cunningham is his feel for the game. Like he spent a lot of that, like let's say 3/4 of the game, really looking to teammates. Like he knew doubles were coming. He knew he was gonna get double teamed, so he is constantly moving his head, looking, and that's something I noticed. That was really impressive to see, because that usually only is with like maybe the top, maybe like lottery picks in the NBA draft that can just see that. But he's tall, he's athletic. He's not LeBron's build, because LeBron is just built differently. But he has that mentality of, people are coming at me. I'm going to try my hardest to get people open and pass them the ball, because I don't need to score every play. But if my teammates can score, then the defense starts looking at them, which makes it easier for me. So Cade Cunningham was super, super impressive this week to me. I'm excited to see more of him over March Madness in the tournament,
Mm-hmm.
which starts, I think, next week. I
Yeah,
always
so
forget.
the
Does it start next week?
the Big 12 tournament. He has a couple more games this week. I haven't let you know about yet, but if you want to watch him, they have a couple more nationally televised games. And the Big 12 tournament, which is down in your neck of the woods. We should go to that
Yeah,
sometime, by the
KU.
way, back when next time COVID isn't rampant. Discussion for another day. Uh, that is next Wednesday through Saturday, I believe. So you'll get several opportunities to watch him during that, I assume. One last note on Cade that I'll say, and I think the way you and I have talked about basketball forever is you'll know that this is kind of my go-to compliment for very high level players, especially at non-professional levels. The game just looks so slow to him.
Yeah.
He never looks like he's out of control. He never looks like he panics like he is just so even. And that's kind of what makes him so deadly is like you don't know when he's going to turn it on, and when he does, again, he's the best. He's probably the best player on the court, or at least in contention with it when he's having a bad game. And when he turns it on, he really can turn it on. We'll move on to game number 2 now if you're ready.
Yeah.
Take it away.
This was my favorite game ever.
This was probably the game of the year.
Ever.
You got a treat here. This probably unseated the Michigan-Ohio State game from a couple weekends ago as the best game of the year so far.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed Baylor. They're a very fun team to watch. West Virginia held their own, which was insane. This game was extremely close, and I believe if Jared Butler doesn't foul out, this game continues to stay close. I know it's a 5-point game, but like near the end, you could kind of see Baylor just like pulling ahead to me. That's what I saw anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if Jared Butler stays in that game, it's he plays for West Virginia. I'm correct.
No, he plays for Baylor. He's the guy on the screen.
Okay, never mind. Let me rephrase that. There's a guy on West Virginia.
Gabe Osaboyan.
There we go. That guy. It was just so fun to watch. They chuck it down the court, shoot a corner 3 that didn't look like it had a prayer of going in. It go in, overtime, here we go. And the finish to the game, what the heck was that? That was insane. You throw it in out of bounds, okay? You throw it. Mullet Man doesn't catch it, okay? And then the West Virginia has a chance to like score, but I didn't really see what Baylor was doing that was also special that couldn't break that defense per se. And he double clutched a 3. Like, what was that?
Well, if I recall, right, so the sequence Denver is referring to is with about 3 seconds-ish to go in the game, West Virginia had an inbound underneath their own basket. They tried a baseball pass the length of the court. It was intercepted by Baylor. Baylor calls timeout. Baylor then is inbounding from like the top of the arc, sideline out of bounds. They throw it back toward their own basket, and the dude throws it so far that it just goes out of bounds without being touched, which means West Virginia gets the ball right there at the sideline out of bounds. And was there a pass is the thing that I cannot specifically remember. From the inbound, I feel like the inbounder gave it to somebody, and then that person then passed to Deuce McBride, who had to put up a shot. That's why I think it was a poor look. I think that guy has to shoot it or make some sort of play because he gave it up to Deuce McBride with such little time on the clock that he didn't really have a great look at a game winner. It still almost, had a chance, but then obviously goes to overtime. It goes where it goes.
I should also mention that in this game, I have found my favorite college basketball player, and his name is Taz Sherman. Oh my gosh, Taz Sherman was so fun to watch. He had no care in the world. We talk about differences in game where it's Cade, Cunningham, everything looks slow. Everything looks so fast to Taz.
He keeps it under control. But yeah, it's a million miles an hour. He's everywhere. He played a whale of a game yesterday.
You know who it reminds me of? Just like him keeping going and just doing whatever he's doing. He reminds me of name drop Devin Melhoff.
We love Devin. Devin was fun to watch run around in circles all the time back in the day.
Look, I'm not dissing Devin. Let me make that clear. I'm not Devin. If you ever see this, I'm not dissing you. But you and Taz have the same dribble mentality, and it's so fun to watch. And
it's always moving. It's fast as fuck. Like it's just a million miles an hour, and that's what makes it tough. That's what makes it tough. He's just everywhere.
And that ability to score That's what it reminded me of, and I didn't want to. And I'm not dissing anybody, but just
No.
just
I
him
actually
running
think
around.
that's actually kind of that's a throwback, but that brings me back. It's a pretty decent comparison.
Yeah. So, but it was just a fun game to watch. If you haven't watched it, go try to find the highlights because it is truly probably like Dirk said the best game of the year. And I didn't even see the other one, so to me this is the best game of the year. I think Baylor looked good. I think they're still
They
kind of
needed this game after the way
yeah.
they
That's
played against Kansas last weekend. And
and
this was a big
that
bounce back game, big statement too. West Virginia's a really good
yeah.
basketball team. There's a reason they're number 6 in the country.
So that's my take on this game. It was fun to watch. I'm excited to see more of Baylor. Do I I want to see Baylor at their best because I haven't seen them at their
Hmm.
best, and I don't know if they can, especially last night, like the next game we're gonna talk about. I don't if they're playing like that. There's no way I think they beat. I think they beat who the next team we're gonna talk about is.
Yeah, one more note on this game before we move on, because you and I didn't talk about this either. Can we just talk about Jared Butler a little more in depth? Some of the takes that man had late in the game, absolutely fearless attacking the rim, were just so impressive to me. Like, West Virginia has some big dudes down there. Gabe Osaboyan is one, and oh, what is his name? He wears number 1. I feel
Oh,
like an
I
idiot
don't
right
know.
now.
I couldn't help you because I don't really know that many players that right away.
Yeah. Anyway, um, West Virginia's solid inside, and Jared Butler had 2 plays. One he got an and one on fairly late in the game, and then the shot to tie the game that effectively sent it to overtime, if I recall, was him just straight line driving it right to the right side of the rim, and the dude just, I mean, he went right at the
Yep.
guy's chest and made an excellent finish. That type of stuff, it translates. If you're a good finisher around the rim, he's gonna be fun to watch for a while, I hope. But we will move on to the final game that
I
Denver
agree.
watched in the last couple of days. We had another top 5 matchup here. Number 4 Illinois and number 2 Michigan. And this one really did not live up to the billing. I know maybe you're disappointed that it wasn't a better game, but I think we learned a little something here about at least one of the teams.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna be openly honest. I didn't like about midway through the second. I stopped watching. I said, "Oh, this game's done," and clearly it was. But wow, does Illinois look impressive? Illinois came out even and without Ao Disabuye, or is that how you pronounce it? I don't
Io
know. I don't know. Io,
Desunmu.
Ao, Desumu,
There you go. Io Desumu.
Io Desumu was not in this game, and Dirks has told me that man is like one of the best players in the nation. And they came out and they just started going, and it started like my favorite matchup to watch, and it didn't play out the way I thought it was going to play out. Was Kofi Coburn versus Dickinson? I don't know Dickinson's first name.
Hunter.
Hunter Dickinson. So like those are two big dudes. Talk about big dude. Kofi Coburn is 7'2" and 285. I found that out last night. That man is a hoss of a dude.
He
He
he's
is a
he's that big, but he doesn't look like thick. He's like slim thick, dude.
dude. His chest, his shoulders are broad, man. He is gonna he's going to the NBA, and whatever team gets him is legitimately going to have like a blessing on their hands. I know the traditional center's kind of gone, but Kofi Coburn, he plays how he wants to play, and he does not care, and it's awesome to watch. Overall, I think Michigan being the number 2 team in the nation, I don't think so. I think they're more of like a 5th team in the nation. I think Illinois should be number 2. Um, I'm still trying to understand how college rankings work,
Yeah.
but Illinois just looked overall so damn good.
They
Like
did.
how do you stop that team? Like Gonzaga, I haven't yet to watch Gonzaga play. And if Gonzaga plays even remotely as good as I've seen Illinois play, who I think, because they're the only team I've seen, I think they're the best team in the nation right now. Baylor has some hiccups apparently, and I've yet to see Gonzaga. So we'll see. But Illinois just is dominant. And when Io comes back, it's just stacking on, So
Yeah, that was I think the craziest part is they laid this absolute beat down on a very good basketball team. Let's not discount Michigan. Every team can have a bad night. This was a lot more about Illinois making Michigan have a bad night than Michigan just inherently having a bad night. I feel like Illinois bothered them so much on the defensive end, and Michigan just never could really get anything going. And then Illinois, all of the two big ones that get a lot of the press, and the announcers last night talked about this too. You hear a lot about Io and you hear a lot about Kofi. They have some dudes on this team. They're probably as deep as anybody. The dude on the screen, Trent Frazier, is like one of the best 3-point shooters in the history of the Big Ten. Andre Curbelo, who's a true freshman. I know he's a freshman. I think he's a true freshman. Off the bench, assumed some of that scoring role that was left by Io being out. You know, the most unheralded and fun name to say, my boy Georgi Bajanishvili, off the bench. He plays some big minutes there when Kofi can't play. They are deep. They have a lot of experience everywhere. This team is going to be a tough out in March. And like you said, they look really good right now. As long as, and I don't think it should be a problem because of the talent level of Io, right? But whatever they have right now, they've learned so much from that Michigan State game that you watched last week to now playing without him, that hopefully when he comes back it doesn't mess with whatever this magical mojo they have going on right now. Hopefully it only adds to it, because the more teams that are playing at a high level in March, the more fun it is toward the end. I'm excited.
yeah, and like I agree with you on that when Io comes back. And that's like I think that's a core for a lot of teams. They get carried by one player. That's what it's appearing to be. That's what the media puts out to be. So that's what the team starts to think. But when that one player goes down or goes out, and that team realizes that they can play as well, if not better, without that player, then I think it becomes a confidence booster for the rest of the team. Like, hey, we're playing fantastic. We don't need to stop playing fantastic. And when Io comes back, let's just add him to the mix. That's my one thing, and that's what I think's gonna happen, and I hope it happens because I want to see the best March Madness as my first March Madness. I want to see things that I haven't seen, and I would really like it to come down to Illinois and maybe Gonzaga. I want to see them play first, but I really think Illinois at least goes to the Final Four.
The big thing for me again too here is, how does Michigan bounce back from this? They now only have 2 losses on the season. They're far from out because this team just, the way they play, they're going to be in basically every basketball game that they play. They are just competitive. Last night was the aberration, right? But this is now 2 losses where 2 Big Ten teams have kind of given it to them. They bounced back from the first one and have now progressed to the point where they were last night as the number 2 team in the nation. They're going to take another step back now after this game. How do they respond from this? We're probably going to get a rematch of this game in the Big Ten title game here in a week and a half or so. And if that is the case and we see these 2 teams again, we'll then have to use that as our true measuring stick entering the big one.
Last note, because I didn't know it and it shocked the hell out of me. I didn't know the coach of Michigan was Jawan Howard.
Mm-hmm.
That shocked the ever living hell out of me. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, this man, I wonder what happened to him from winning the last 2 rings in Miami, just sitting on the bench being a player coach, to now coaching considerably one of the best teams in the nation in college basketball. So good for him.
Mm-hmm. Now, to just be the cherry on top of this nice little episode, Denver, you know about the NBA bubble. You know about the G League bubble. I'm going to introduce you to my friend, the NCAA tournament bubble. But not the physical bubble that they're creating in Indianapolis this year. The one that exists every year, that has teams on either side of the mountain kind of thing. Who's making it, who's not right now. We'll then revisit this right before Selection Sunday. I think it's this one. Nice graphic, by the way. You like this? Every day. Yeah, this was updated this morning at 12:10 a.m. Eastern. They update this every day going forward. Sometimes multiple times a day. The top overall seed, Gonzaga, they're firmly in. But this is what we pay attention to. Right now, the first team out and the last team in. Here's the bubble. So, this is fairly self-explanatory, but let me explain how it works, right? There's, I think, 33 conferences in Division I NCAA basketball. The winner of each of those conferences is an automatic qualifier to the tournament.
Okay.
There's then however many at-large bids, right? 35, whatever. These, right, if you put a line right down the middle here, so right in between the last 4 in and the first 4 out, the 8 teams on the left side of that line are teams 28 through 35 in the at-large ranking. And then the first 4 out and next 4 out are the teams that would be 36 through 44, I guess.
Gotcha.
So right now, the line is drawn between Xavier and Boise State. We have some big names, Duke, Syracuse, Indiana, on the wrong side of this imaginary line right here. But now we see Michigan State sneaking in. Michigan State wasn't even like in the picture really like a week and a half ago. But then they've put together, they beat Illinois, we talked about, a week and a half ago. They beat Indiana last night, I know. They beat Ohio State over the weekend. So they've now catapulted themselves into the last 4 teams in. Georgia Tech and Duke played last night, and that could have probably been an attempt for Duke to... I think they were like right here before the game last night. And so they could have maybe snuck their way into the last team in. But now Duke's got some work to do. They're going to have to make a run in the ACC tournament probably to make it into the big bracket. This is just a fun thing that we can throw up on the screen and take a look back at here in 8 days or so and be like, okay, who's moved where? Because there's a lot of movement on this bubble. All of these teams have so much work to do to like solidify their spot that this is some of my favorite things to look at.
Yeah, I have no idea what this is. You just explained it to me. It's crazy to see Duke in this little thing. It's also crazy to see Syracuse also there. I laugh because VCU is up in like they're going to the bracket, and VCU always cracks me up because they had that big run a few years back where they made it to like the Final Four or something, and that was wild. Yeah, it is an interesting thing to look at to see where teams go, teams land. I think when it comes down to it, I'm just excited for this. I want to see who plays who, and it's just getting me pumped. Like I'm just so happy that I'm slightly enjoying college basketball.
Me too, for what it's worth. This is the best time of year in my opinion. the next couple of weeks, I'm going to definitely have you watching as much basketball as you can here as championship week starts. I think Saturday is really the beginning. The first couple of conference championship games take place on Saturday, and then some of the smaller conferences start their tournaments over this weekend, I know. And then middle of next week through the weekend is all the big boys. They're playing each other. They're fighting it out for those seeding points and stuff like that. It's going to be a wild time.